Marcus Vance leaned back against the worn metal railing of his small freighter, staring at the chaotic swirl of lights and ships in the interstellar marketplace below. The station, known to traders as Obsidian Spire, was a place where credits changed hands faster than ships could jump through hyperspace. He rubbed his temple and let out a weary sigh. The numbers in his account were all wrong, and the syndicate that had lent him credits was growing impatient. He owed them a sum he could not possibly pay in full, not in the next 10 years, not in 10 lifetimes. He had tried every route, every shipment, every smuggling job that wouldn't get him killed, but luck had a way of running dry at the worst possible moments. And now, with the syndicate's enforcers waiting on a distant platform, he had one choice left. A loud chime echoed through his freighter, signaling an incoming message. He tapped the console, and a hologram flickered to life. The image was grainy, but the figure was unmistakable. Zeltran Crix, a mid-level syndicate boss with a reputation for cruelty that was only rivaled by his cunning. "Marcus Vance," the hologram said in a voice like gravel sliding down metal. "Your debt is overdue. I trust you have prepared payment." "Speak quickly, human. I do not have patience for excuses." At first, he had almost refused, but when he had weighed his options, he realized he had no choice. "She is capable," Marcus said cautiously. "She can work off the debt. She will be mine to keep until the debt is cleared." "The ship is docked on platform 47. Take her and remember, Marcus Vance, your debt does not vanish because of her presence." The platform was crowded, filled with merchants, smugglers, and laborers. Marcus maneuvered his freighter through the docking bays, eyes scanning the crates stacked around the area. Finally, he found the one marked with a small, crude emblem, an alien symbol that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. The crate was opened, and he was met with a pair of eyes that made him pause. They were large and dark, intelligent, and full of something he could not immediately name, fear perhaps, but also something else. Something like quiet strength. The young woman who stepped out was unlike any alien he had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly under the artificial lights, and her movements were fluid, graceful, almost rehearsed. She wore a simple tunic, but even in its plainness there was a sense of nobility about her posture, the way she held her head, the careful calculation in every step. "I am Lyria," she said softly, her voice melodic but firm. "I am yours. You'll work with me, and I'll make sure you're safe and treated fairly while we get through this." Marcus gestured for her to follow him, and they boarded the freighter. The journey back to his home station was quiet at first. Lyria observed everything with a careful gaze, her eyes tracing the ship's controls, the readouts, the strange blinking lights. Marcus noticed she was not just observing, she was understanding. Without a word, she reached for a panel and adjusted a faulty circuit. The console beeped happily in response, and the ship's engine hummed smoother. Marcus stared at her. "You know how to do that." The days that followed were tense. Lyria proved herself invaluable in ways Marcus could not have imagined. She could navigate alien maps, translate ancient scripts, and even anticipate threats in ways that made him suspicious. Twice, she had warned him of ambushes before his sensors even picked up a signal. Twice, her instincts saved his ship from destruction. He found himself talking to her more, learning small things. Her favorite stories, her quiet habits, the subtle ways she noticed things others missed. She never complained, never demanded more than what was necessary, yet she carried herself with a quiet authority that made Marcus uncomfortable. One night, as they drifted near the edge of the Kryler Nebula, Marcus watched her trace her fingers over a small necklace she wore constantly. A faint emblem glowed softly, and Marcus noticed that the light intensified near certain alien relics stored in his cargo bay. "What is that?" he asked quietly. Lyria's eyes widened slightly, then she looked away. "Nothing of importance," she said, voice tight. "Merely a keepsake." Marcus's heart raced as he threw the ship into evasive maneuvers. "Take the lower turret," he barked to Lyria. "I don't need a turret," she said. "Stand back." Their weapons misfired, engines stalled, and the gang screamed over comms in frustration. Marcus gawked. "How?" Later, in the quiet of the ship's cabin, Marcus asked the question that had been gnawing at him since he first met her. "Lyria, what are you really? If you're going to be working with me, I need to know." The reality of their situation was clear. They were both being hunted, both on the run, and both part of something much larger than he had ever imagined. That night, as he lay in his bunk, Marcus couldn't sleep. He thought of the glow of her necklace, the intelligence in her eyes, the power she had displayed without effort. A small, unbidden thought crept into his mind. This woman, this alien, could change everything. The first part of their journey was over, but the true adventure had only just begun. Marcus had accepted her as a payment, a solution to his debt. But he had no idea that Lyria was not just anyone. She was the heir of a lost empire, and soon their lives would collide with forces far beyond any marketplace, any crime syndicate, any pirate ambush. And for the first time in his life, Marcus realized something that both excited and terrified him. Humanity might finally meet someone who could test them, challenge them, and ultimately reveal what humans were truly capable of. The freighter hummed softly as it glided through the black of deep space, a trail of distant stars stretching into infinity outside the small viewport. Marcus Vance sat in the pilot's chair, fingers drumming nervously against the console. He had hoped the journey would give him some time to think, but the more he watched Lyria, the more he realized he had no idea what he was dealing with. She moved around the cabin with quiet grace, scanning the ship's readouts and adjusting minor systems with uncanny precision. Marcus had long since stopped being surprised when she fixed a failing navigation array before he even noticed a problem. "You've never done anything like this for anyone else?" he asked cautiously. Lyria paused, eyes glimmering in the dim light. "I have helped many in ways that were needed, but not for what you call payment, not for ownership. I never wanted. That counts for something." "Pirates," he muttered, adjusting the ship's trajectory. "They're fast and they know how to corner a freighter like ours." Their ships were sleek, black, and armed with weapons that could tear through the hull of his freighter in seconds. "Lyria, we're outgunned. I need." The freighter's engines glowed brighter, and suddenly the pirate ship seemed to hesitate, their formation faltering as if caught in an invisible snare. Marcus blinked, confused. What did you do?" he asked. "I adjusted the energy field patterns around the ship," Lyria said simply. "They are sensitive to certain fluctuations in electromagnetic signals. I amplified them slightly. It disrupts their targeting systems." That was incredible. There was something about her presence, something commanding and intelligent that made him feel both protective and cautious at the same time. Over the next several days, as they traveled toward a distant trade station, Marcus tried to understand her better. He learned she had knowledge of multiple alien languages, could read star charts from civilizations long extinct, and had a memory that seemed to hold the histories of entire worlds. "You've seen a lot," he said one evening, leaning against the cabin wall. "A lot more than I ever could. It is difficult to measure when time is not counted as you do." He thought about the syndicate, about how easily they had given him this woman as payment, and about the small emblem glowing softly against her chest. He could not shake the feeling that it meant far more than a keepsake. Something about it seemed alive. The next morning, their routine was broken again. A transmission intercepted their comms, a coded message in a language Marcus did not recognize. Lyria's eyes narrowed and she moved to the console. "They are looking for me," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Not to harm, but to reclaim. Those who seek what was lost." Over the next several hours, Lyria guided the freighter through asteroid fields, abandoned mining stations, and sectors controlled by rival factions. Every time he thought they were cornered, she found a way to outmaneuver them, leaving Marcus bewildered. Finally, as they reached the outskirts of a neutral trade station known as Port, Lyria spoke again. "We can rest here for now. But they will not stop hunting. The galaxy remembers even when humans do not. I am the last of something greater. They are seeking the power, the legacy, and the history that belongs to me by right." At Port, they were careful to keep a low profile. Lyria blended in, though her presence drew subtle attention. Merchants and travelers occasionally glanced at her, sensing something unusual in the way she moved, the way she carried herself. Marcus, ever cautious, kept a close eye on anyone showing interest in them. Over the next week, they traded supplies, repaired the freighter, and gathered information. Lyria's knowledge of alien politics became invaluable. She deciphered codes, read signals, and even predicted the movements of factions that Marcus would never have understood. One evening, as they rested in the small cabin, Marcus spoke again. "You know, humans are underestimated in this galaxy. But maybe we're not so bad after all. You survive when others fail. That is admirable." As they prepared to leave Port, Lyria's hand rested briefly on the console, the emblem around her neck glowing softly in the cabin's dim light. Marcus felt a shiver run down his spine. This was not just a keepsake. It was a key a key to power, to history, and to the dangers that awaited them. And as the freighter launched into hyperspace, Marcus understood that the journey ahead would test everything he knew about courage, intelligence, and the role of humans in a galaxy far larger than they had ever imagined. Lyria had survived countless dangers before, but now, with him at her side, she was not only surviving, she was preparing. Preparing for the moment when the galaxy would finally remember who she was, and when Marcus would realize that humans, underestimated though they might be, could play a role far beyond what anyone had expected. The freighter drifted silently through the edge of the Scifi Rift, a dangerous region of space filled with magnetic storms and rogue debris. Marcus Vance sat at the pilot console, eyes scanning the display for anomalies. Since leaving Port, the tension in the cabin had been almost unbearable. Lyria remained calm, as always, but Marcus felt the weight of her words from days before. She was the heir of a lost empire, and there were those in the galaxy who would stop at nothing to reclaim her. "Are we safe here?" Marcus asked, his voice low. He didn't expect a direct answer, but he needed to say it anyway. Lyria's eyes, dark and deep, met his. "Safe is a relative term. Here there are fewer eyes watching, but the galaxy remembers. But the moment I interact with trade stations, factions, or relics that are tied to my family, someone will notice. Someone always notices. Sensors designed to detect my family's bloodline and legacy are converging on us. I am a key to an empire. Trust me." Marcus twisted the controls, dodging debris and storm clouds as Lyria recalibrated the freighter's shields. The blast struck the hull, sending vibrations through the ship. Marcus gritted his teeth. "They're fast, too fast. We will use that. They will follow the decoy." The base was abandoned, relics of a forgotten mining operation long since forgotten. Marcus guided the ship into the docking bay, and they stepped out onto the metallic floor. The silence was almost deafening. "This will have to do," Marcus said, leaning against the wall. "We can rest, repair, and plan. They will not stop. The moment they know I exist, they will send hunters. Not just for me, they want control, power, legacy. A civilization that spanned hundreds of star systems, guided by knowledge, justice, and strength. But greed and betrayal led to its fall. I am the last living heir. The galaxy does not know it yet, but those who remember my family are very dangerous. They want the throne or my death." Did they know? She deciphered ancient codes, navigated complex trade maps, and even predicted which sectors were safest to travel. Every day, Marcus realized more clearly that humans had underestimated themselves, and the galaxy had underestimated them. One evening, as they studied a star map, a sudden alert flared on the console. Marcus froze. "Another fleet already. This is different. They know my presence for certain now. They have traced the signal of our last jump and are closing in with intent. Watch and learn, human." Marcus's hands flew over the controls, barely keeping the ship steady. "Trust the path," Lyria said, voice steady. "They cannot anticipate what they cannot see. Follow my lead." Once they were clear, Marcus leaned back, shaking his head in disbelief. You just outwitted a whole fleet. How is that even possible?" Here he was, a human, standing next to someone whose family had ruled the galaxy, yet it was their combined ingenuity that had saved them. He realized that humans were not as powerless as the galaxy assumed. They were clever, adaptable, and if they chose to be, decisive. As night fell over the asteroid base, Marcus and Lyria sat together in the small cabin. The freighter's systems hummed quietly, a temporary reprieve from the chaos outside. "I have to ask," Marcus said softly. "Why me? Why did the Syndicate send me this heir? Did they think I'd fail?" "Guess they underestimated humans too, huh?" They were allies facing a galaxy that would do everything to claim or destroy Lyria. Suddenly, the freighter's sensors flared again, this time with a distant signal. Lyria's eyes narrowed. "They are preparing a strike fleet. Soon, we cannot stay hidden any longer." They had survived ambushes, outwitted fleets, and navigated the most dangerous regions of space. Whatever awaited them, they would face it together. Lyria's hand rested lightly on the console, the emblem around her neck glowing faintly. Marcus watched her, realizing the full truth. This was not just a young woman fleeing for her life. She was the last heir of a lost empire, a living symbol of power and legacy, and now more than ever the galaxy was about to remember her. And with him at her side, Marcus knew that humans, once thought small, weak, and inconsequential, were capable of shaping events on a scale far larger than anyone had imagined. The galaxy had never seen a human paired with an heir of an empire like this, and it was about to learn the hard way that they should never underestimate them again. The freighter lifted off the asteroid base, engines glowing bright against the void. Beyond the viewport, stars streaked past as they jumped into hyperspace. Marcus sat back, hands gripping the console, heart steady. They were not safe, not yet, but they were ready. And for the first time, Marcus Vance felt the true weight of their journey ahead. The pursuit of Lyria's legacy, the challenge of the galaxy itself, and the discovery that humans were far more powerful than anyone had ever believed. The freighter moved through the void, silent and precise, carrying Marcus Vance and Lyria toward the outer rim of the galaxy. Danger lingered in every star system. Lyria had warned him that those who remembered her family would not wait long, and the evidence of pursuit had been clear for days. Sensors picked up fragments of distant fleets adjusting their courses, small scout ships moving fast to locate them. Marcus gripped the console, tension coiling in his chest. "They are closer," Lyria said, her voice calm but firm. She stood beside him, scanning the display, hands lightly resting on the controls. "They have organized. They intend to stop us before we can reach the sectors of the old empire. These are no random hunters. They are professionals. Humans are underestimated, Marcus. That is our advantage." "That is their mistake." Marcus followed her directions carefully, his heart racing with every close call as chunks of rock and electrical storms zipped past the freighter. "This is insane," he muttered. "We could die out here." Sleek black ships, symbols glowing faintly on their hulls, agents of a faction loyal to Lyria's family's enemies. Marcus's stomach tightened. "There's no way we can outrun them." Using the freighter's cloaking systems, they veiled their energy signature, creating false signals that suggested they had jumped in one direction while secretly slipping past in another. The pursuing fleet scattered, searching for them, but every move Lyria predicted, every trap she anticipated, worked perfectly. Marcus realized the galaxy had never seen tactics like this in decades. A human had survived this, yes, but only because of Lyria's mind and his willingness to follow. After the fleet was left behind, they entered a remote asteroid system. Lyria landed the freighter on a large rock formation, carved naturally like a fortress, and they stepped onto solid ground. The asteroid was hollowed out, forming ancient tunnels and chambers. Marcus felt a chill. The place had the feel of history, old power, old wealth, old secrets. "This is safe for now," Lyria said. "We can plan here, and we can send signals to allies who may help us." But the galaxy does not forget. Power leaves a mark. He realized humans could be clever, adaptable, and decisive when survival demanded it. For someone like him, every skill he picked up could mean the difference between life and death. Late one night, as they reviewed incoming reports, Lyria's expression darkened. "They are mobilizing a strike force," she said quietly. "A powerful one. They do not want me alive. They want control of what I represent. If I fall into their hands, the galaxy will suffer. Your ingenuity is what will tip the balance." As the enemy fleet approached, Lyria whispered instructions. "Do not fire yet. Wait until they are over the canyon. Timing is everything." A precise burst of electromagnetic energy sent waves through the canyon, disrupting their sensors and communications. Ships collided with debris, engines stalled, and panic spread through the enemy ranks. Marcus let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. They're falling for it. "They will recover. We must strike decisively." Finally, the moment came. The enemy fleet, having repaired part of their ships, attempted another strike. But Lyria and her allies were ready. Using a combination of strategy, terrain, and precise strikes, they outmaneuvered the attackers. Marcus realized for the first time that humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because others failed to anticipate creativity, adaptability, and courage. During the final clash, Lyria led the strike, directing her allies with precision that reminded Marcus of a commander from legends. Marcus followed her instructions flawlessly, using human ingenuity to anticipate the enemy's moves. When a smaller squadron of enemy ships broke formation, Marcus devised a clever countermaneuver, causing confusion and forcing them to retreat. When the dust settled, the battlefield was silent. The enemy fleet had retreated, leaving Lyria and her allies victorious. Marcus looked at her, a mix of exhaustion and admiration in his eyes. "We did it somehow." Lyria's enemies were many, and the weight of her legacy would bring them into danger again and again. Over the following days, as they repaired ships and reinforced their defenses, Marcus noticed something remarkable. Humans, small, underestimated creatures, were capable of remarkable ingenuity. His quick thinking, adaptability, and courage had saved lives, even in ways that Lyria admitted she could not have anticipated. In the chaos of the galaxy, humans had a strength of their own. One evening, as they watched the distant stars from the freighter's observation deck, Marcus spoke quietly. "You know, Lyria, humans are clever. We survive when no one expects us to. Maybe that's why I'm here with you. We are survivors." Yet the galaxy was vast, and the enemies of Lyria's legacy were clever and relentless. The next challenge would be even greater, testing strategy, courage, and the unique ingenuity of humans and their allies. As the freighter glided silently through the void, Marcus realized something profound. They were not just fleeing or hiding. They were preparing, learning, and proving that humans, underestimated though they were, could shape the course of galactic events. And somewhere, deep in the darkness of space, other forces were stirring. Forces that would soon learn that the last heir of a lost empire, guided by strategy, courage, and human ingenuity, was not to be underestimated. Marcus leaned back in his chair, watching Lyria as she adjusted the controls. For the first time, he felt a mixture of hope and determination. They had faced impossible odds and survived. They had learned to trust each other. And the galaxy, vast and dangerous, would soon discover that humans could play a role far beyond what anyone had imagined. The battle was won, but the war was only beginning. And for Marcus and Lyria, every choice, every maneuver, and every decision from this point forward would shape the future of an empire thought lost, and a galaxy that had underestimated the cleverness of humans for far too long. The freighter hummed softly as it moved through hyperspace, carrying Marcus Vance and Lyria toward the heart of what remained of her family's empire. For weeks they had navigated ambushes, fleets, and betrayals, building alliances with rebels, former soldiers, and distant factions who remembered Lyria's name. Now, the final challenge awaited them, reclaiming what was rightfully hers and ensuring the galaxy remembered the power and justice her family had once upheld. Marcus leaned back in the pilot's chair, studying the star map. "We're close," he said quietly. "This is it, the capital system." "Got it. And now it is a place of control, not justice. My task is to change that." Lyria guided them like a chess master, anticipating enemy positions, predicting patrol routes, and calculating every risk. When they landed, the base was quiet, but the tension was palpable. Allied soldiers, both human and alien, waited silently. Lyria stepped forward, her presence commanding even in the low light. Marcus followed, feeling both nervous and determined. "This is it," she said, addressing the assembled allies. "Today we take back what was lost, not for revenge but for justice, for fairness, for the people who have suffered while power fell into the wrong hands." Humans were capable of courage, ingenuity, and loyalty, but standing beside her, he realized that the combination of human determination and Lyria's knowledge was unstoppable. They moved quickly, infiltrating the central city under cover of darkness. Lyria's plan was precise: neutralize the enemy's leadership, disrupt their communications, and secure the central power core that controlled the city's defenses. Marcus handled navigation, coordination, and energy systems, often improvising solutions when unexpected obstacles arose. Time and again, his quick thinking saved lives and kept the plan on track. The first encounter came in the city's outer districts. Enemy guards, loyal to the usurpers of Lyria's empire, patrolled in armored vehicles. Lyria led a small strike team, using stealth and strategy to disable surveillance and incapacitate key targets. Marcus marveled at her skill. She moved like a shadow, precise and confident, directing the allies and anticipating every move of the enemy. At one point, they encountered a squad of heavily armed soldiers blocking a corridor. Marcus's mind raced. "We can't fight them head-on," he whispered to Lyria. "No," she said. "We distract, isolate, and use the environment." Using the confusion, Lyria and the team slipped past, leaving the enemy confused and unable to mount an effective counterattack. Marcus realized that humans, underestimated though they were, could be decisive even in the most impossible situations. His ingenuity, combined with Lyria's strategy, gave them an edge no one expected. Hours passed in a tense, careful advance. Marcus and Lyria moved through the city, neutralizing threats, securing key positions, and rallying citizens who had long lived under oppression. Everywhere they went, people whispered of the heir's return. Marcus saw hope in their eyes, a hope he had never witnessed before. Finally, they reached the central palace, the heart of power. The outer defenses were formidable, automated turrets, energy shields, and elite guards. Lyria turned to Marcus. "This is the final step. Are you ready?" He underestimated both Lyria and Marcus. The battle was intense but brief. Lyria's team moved with precision, neutralizing guards and disabling systems. Marcus coordinated energy flows and navigation overrides, creating openings and exploiting weaknesses. Together, they outmaneuvered the governor's forces, leaving him exposed and powerless. When Lyria finally confronted the governor, she stood tall, calm, and unwavering. "Your time is over," she said. "The empire does not belong to you, it belongs to its people. I am the heir, and I will restore justice. We adapt, and sometimes we win where others fail." This empire was lost not because of weakness, but because those in power forgot justice. Today, we begin anew. Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will ensure fairness, knowledge, and strength guide our future. Now he realized that humans were not just survivors. They were partners in shaping destiny. His ingenuity, adaptability, and courage had been crucial. And standing beside Lyria, he knew the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. Days passed as Lyria and Marcus worked to stabilize the empire. They repaired systems, established councils, and ensured that power was distributed fairly. Lyria's leadership inspired loyalty, while Marcus' human perspective brought practical solutions to challenges that had persisted for centuries. Citizens once oppressed by corrupt rulers began to participate in governance. Rebel factions were integrated into the new administration. Humans and aliens worked side by side, demonstrating that cooperation and cleverness could overcome fear and prejudice. Marcus marveled at the transformation. He had never imagined that humans could play such a vital role in galactic history. One evening, as they looked out over the palace courtyard, Marcus spoke softly. "You know, Lyria, when I first met you, I thought you were just a slave, a payment to settle a debt. I never imagined this. You have survived, adapted, and contributed in ways that even the galaxy did not predict. And hope can change everything." Humans were no longer seen as weak or insignificant. They were respected, valued, and trusted. One day, in the central hall of the palace, Lyria formally acknowledged Marcus in front of the council and citizens. "Marcus Vance," she said, her voice clear and steady, "has been instrumental in this journey. Without his courage, ingenuity, and unwavering support, we could not have reclaimed this empire. He is a reminder that humans, often underestimated, are capable of greatness. Let the galaxy remember this." He had started as a man paying a debt with an alien slave, and now he was a partner in shaping the future of a restored empire. As the sun set over the palace, casting golden light over the city, Marcus and Lyria stood together, looking toward the stars. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of challenges, but for the first time, hope was tangible. They had faced impossible odds, outsmarted powerful enemies, and proven that humans, when underestimated, could achieve extraordinary things. Lyria's hand rested lightly on Marcus' shoulder. "This is only the beginning," she said, "but we have shown the galaxy that justice, courage, and intelligence matter. That humans, though small and underestimated, can be the key to change." The galaxy would never again underestimate them, and together, Lyria and Marcus were prepared to face whatever challenges the stars might bring. The lost empire was no longer lost. Its heir had returned, and humanity, once overlooked, had earned its place in the story of the stars.